within 2 months. The agreement includes their affirmation of the respect for the sovereignty of states and the non-interference in international affairs. Let's talk of a global development agenda. The Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as SDGs, and also known as the Global Goals, GGs, were adopted by the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all the people enjoy peace and prosperity. At the heart of 2030 agenda are 5 critical dimensions. I call it 5 Ps: people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. The 17 SDGs are integrated. They recognize that actions in one area will affect outcomes in others, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability. Ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth. Economic security as fundamental of national security. The Constitution of Pakistan speaks of economic fundamentals in very clear terms, in that it is bedrock of our society. Economic security of Pakistan is the foremost priority within the overall security calculus, because a well-functioning, dynamic, and robust economy can only help to bolster the other pillars of national security. Loss of economic security, ladies and gentlemen, especially allowing any form of interference in domestic markets, economic backwardness, and failure to create jobs leads to social conflict, political instability, and weakens national security. Economic insecurity leads obviously to erosion of national security and national sovereignty. Pakistan is one of the most susceptible countries to climate change, which has huge economic cost in the form of floods, lower farm productivity due to water scarcity, and lower worker productivity due to harsh environmental conditions. To mitigate these risks, Pakistan should take steps to ensure food security for a fast-growing population, invest in resilient agriculture and infrastructure, water management practices, and effective management of groundwater. Cognizant of this fact, the present government is strongly committed to manage the national economy in a most efficient and effective manner, both at the macro and micro levels, to achieve higher, sustainable, and inclusive economic growth. Let me discuss with you domestic situation. I avail this opportunity to enlighten you about the prevailing conditions of our economy. What was it a year before when a new government was installed, and how we intend to deal with the deep challenges, and what are our plans to overcome our economic problems. Ladies and gentlemen, this government inherited unsustainable economic growth due to the severe macroeconomic imbalances. The overheated economy led to widening of current account and budget deficit, what we call the twin deficits country. These severe macroeconomic imbalances had brought Pakistan to a brink of financial serious situation. I am not using the word collapse. The IMF program was off track, as the previous government not only reneged on its commitments, but also took 180-degree opposite steps before it was, through a constitutional move, voted out. On the external side, the trade deficit had widened to $39.7 billion in the fiscal year 2022. The current account deficit was $17.4 billion. Due to poor economic governance, our foreign direct investment had declined to $1.9 billion. High trade deficit, current account deficit, led to State Bank forex reserves to a declining trend. On the fiscal side, the deficit was at 7.9% of GDP. During 2018-22, huge amount was added to the circular debt, which reached to 2,467 billion, and the public debt ballooned from 25 trillion to 44.5 trillion rupees, an increase of 78%. If you look into public debt and liabilities, that figure ballooned from 30,000, just under 30 trillion or 30,000 billion rupees to 54.5 trillion, which was 79% increase in a period of just 4 years. The unprecedented floods affected all sectors of the economy. Overall damage is estimated to be $14.9 billion. Loss to the GDP, if added $15.2 billion, it makes over $31 billion loss to Pakistan economy due to the floods catastrophe Pakistan witnessed during the year 2022. The UNDP, Asian Development Bank, European Union, World Bank, assisted by the Pakistan Planning Division, has estimated that Pakistan will require $16.3 billion for the rehabilitation and reconstruction work. The immediate rescue and recovery work, which was over 100 billion rupees, was spent by the government at a fast speed. So the economic outlook had deteriorated to flood-related damages and disruptions, a tight monetary stance, high inflation, depreciating currency, and a less conducive global environment, which I have just explained. So, what could be a roadmap ensuring sustainable and inclusive economic growth? Ladies and gentlemen, due to shrinking fiscal space, it was difficult for the government to continue the provision of subsidy on petroleum and different other areas, which was rolled back by increasing petroleum prices by levy of PDL, Petroleum Development Levy, a commitment of the previous government over a phased manner. The rolling back the untargeted subsidies in the gas and the power sector in order to make those sectors viable. The government also imposed a complete ban on the import of more than 3 dozen non-essential luxury items as part of an emergency economic plan to tackle high trade deficit and depleting forex reserves. The tightening of the monetary policy and fiscal consolidation measures helped in moderating demand to a more sustainable pace while keeping inflation expectations anchored and containing risks to external stability. Ladies and gentlemen, government is cognizant about the hardship of society but took many difficult decisions to fulfill the sovereign commitment of the previous government at the time of signing of the EFF program with IMF in 2019. We took these decisions at a very high political cost to the political parties who have formed the current government. We believe that the state is more important than politics. Government took the difficult decision through necessary actions to stabilize the economy and to deal with the looming balance of payments crisis, economic diplomacy to seek support from other bilateral, multilateral, and friendly countries is part of these efforts of this government. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just share some current data with you. The tax collections of FBR has increased by around 18% to 5,156 billion rupees during July-March, the first 9 months of this fiscal year, as compared to 4,376 billion in the last year. The current account posted a deficit of 3.4 billion against a deficit of 13 billion US dollars in the corresponding period last year, July to March, which has now narrowed by 74%. The current account deficit in the month of March has shown a surplus after 2020, first time with a figure of 645 million US dollar. And we expect, the number is being finalized in the next few days, that the April vote also, God willing, will show a current account surplus, inshallah. The trade deficit, July-March, was 35.5 billion last year, which has shrunk by 35.5% to 22.9 billion US dollars. The fiscal deficit stood at 2.8% of GDP, in numbers 2,392 billion during July-February current fiscal year, as compared to 3.4% of GDP last fiscal year 2022. During July-February, the primary balance posted a surplus of 781 billion, which is 0.9% of GDP, against the deficit of 399 billion, 0.6% of GDP last year. Now let's talk some economic reforms which are in the way in Pakistan. Pakistan has resolute in its dedication to implementing economic reforms with a focus on creating a conducive environment for investment, promoting entrepreneurship, and fostering inclusive growth. We have undertaken a series of bold and ambitious reforms to address structural imbalances, improve the business climate, and enhance the competitiveness of our economy. One of the key pillars of our economic reforms agenda is fiscal consolidation and resource mobilization. We have taken measures to rationalize government spending, broaden the tax base, improve revenue collection. These efforts are aimed at reducing our fiscal deficit, manage our debt sustainability, and create fiscal space for critical investments in infrastructure, human capital, and social protection. Ladies and gentlemen, to reduce current expenditure, the Prime Minister has announced a robust austerity initiative which includes the cabinet members foregoing their salary. The FPR is working hard to increase revenue collection and tax to GDP ratio through various tax policy and administrative measures and reforms. In this regard, efforts are being made through maximum taxpayer facilitation, automation, ease of doing business, reducing human interaction, minimizing procedural complications, broadening tax base, increasing tax awareness, and improving the overall efficiency of the tax machinery. Agriculture is a vital sector of Pakistan economy, employing a significant portion of our population. Our government has implemented agriculture sector reforms, including incentives to the livestock sector, increase crop yield, and modernize the agriculture sector with increased the use of the machine, modernizing irrigation and provision of quality seeds, withdrawal of sales tax on supply of tractors, agriculture implements through a 1,700 billion rupees Kisan package. These reforms are aimed at improving agriculture productivity, increasing farmers' income, and promoting food security in the country. The recent bumper crop of wheat is, alhamdulillah, an outcome of this initiative. Another critical area of reform is improving the ease of doing business in Pakistan. We have implemented measures to simplify regulatory procedures, streamline business registration, and enhance contract enforcement. These reforms are aimed at attracting both domestic and foreign investment, stimulating entrepreneurship, and creating employment opportunity for our youth. Government has approved greenfield industrial policy to encourage industry to adopt new efficient technologies. The government is also focusing on promoting innovation and technology in the industrial sector. This will help businesses become more competitive and will lead to development of new industries and products in the country. The industrial sector has the potential to contribute significantly to the country's exports and foreign exchange earnings. The government is committed to support businesses to increase their export capacity and access new markets. The government is also working on promoting small and medium enterprises, SMEs, to ensure inclusive economic growth and reduce poverty in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, government is also working to overcome the energy-related issues. For the purpose, solar policy and power sector indigenization plan are in progress to generate adequate renewable energy. Further, government is considering certain policy measures, for example, improved tariff structure, and to provide enabling environment for investors to set up plants for production of petrochemical locally in Pakistan. We would be hopefully coming very soon with a bonded storage policy in the petrochemical industry, hopefully very soon. The present government is committed to modernizing investment laws based on best practices to improve the investment climate in the country. This includes strong coordination between the public and private sectors to enhance human capital through training programs. Focusing on identifying and incentivizing high growth potential firms and SMEs is also a priority of this government. Efforts are being made to revive and expand the scope of cooperation in areas such as CPAC, water resources management, climate change, mining, agriculture, and energy and industrial sectors. These measures aim to enable the country to achieve higher, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, we are committed to boost Pakistan's exports to reduce the trade deficits and enhance economic competitiveness. The government has implemented several policy incentives, including regional competitive energy tariffs for export-oriented sectors, rationalization of import custom tariffs, elimination of custom duties on imports of dyes and chemicals, and rationalization of customs duties on various tariff lines. A regulatory framework has been formulated to facilitate export